Hello and welcome back to the Building HVAC Science Podcast. We're doing our thing here to create better, more knowledgeable HVAC and building performance technicians by helping the two professions better understand each other and learn about all the new, rapid changing trends in the industry. I've worked in the HVACR and building performance market for over 30 years, and I've seen the need for this kind of information, both technically and business-related information, and how to do a job better. And that's what our talk today is about. Today, Eric and I get to speak with Anthony Wu, who's an HVAC contractor from Quebec, Canada. And he shares his journey, like most of our guests do, on how he became a successful business owner in a really rapid fashion. He discusses his personal evolution, the EOS system, which he has implemented in his business. And he also talks about the power of data-driven decisions and networking, especially through things like the NCI events, NCI training, NCI high performance hangout. Also, he's got a passion for educating homeowners and has a great set of social media doing that, links in the show notes. He also gives us a peek into his strategic business approach. He emphasizes sustainable scaling, reinvesting in his team, and leveraging modern tools like the Energy Conservatory TrueFlow Grid for diagnostics. He also talks about creating a strong personal brand and a reputation that's fueled his success primarily through word-of-mouth marketing. You'll be a little bit in awe of how much business he gets without running ads. This episode has in it actionable insights for HVAC professionals looking to elevate their craft or implement smart business practices. Again, the crossover between business and technology, and also to lead with a purpose. Here are a couple little thought nuggets from Anthony. Podcasts are like a university on wheels for learning. As I learn new things, I'm conscious of making sure my colleagues have the framework to understand what I'm talking about. And the one I like the best, I apply filtration to ideas to decide what to implement. Finally, Anthony offers us a simple yet powerful piece of advice to set your goals, make a plan, and go after what you want without fear. And it sometimes happens after we finish recording, Eric and I stayed on the call with Anthony, and Eric Kaiser actually had a good summary of what Anthony's doing. I'm not quoting exactly, but here you go. You said you don't know how to run a business. What you're really saying is you are not running a business the way others do or advising you to do. You're running your business on your own terms. If that hasn't gotten you interested in listening more, I don't know what would. Here we go. Anthony Wu, Eric and me.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Building HVAC Science Podcast. Eric Kaiser here, Mr. Bill Spohn over there, and our special guest today, all the way from Canada. We can get that internet thing going across the border here so we can actually talk to him.
Still works.
Mr. Anthony Wu, welcome, sir.
How are you guys?
Fantastic. Anthony, real pleasure to have you come on, and you had no idea what we would talk about. So it's time, Eric, spring all the tough questions on him, okay? Right now.
Man, I got a bunch of them right here for him. We got it lined up. I want to find out about his business, but I really want to learn more about him first because, I've seen you a couple times in the past year, probably. You were at the NCI Summit. You were just down at the symposium in Florida. You stuck around for AHR too, right?
Yeah, so 6 months ago was the summit when I first got to really talk to both of you guys, setting up because I was there helping John Ellis set up his booth. And then he came to get the dust-free 16 from you guys. Or helped you guys assemble your dust-free 16, your 5-ton one. So
yeah,
that is where we first crossed paths at the summit.
Gotcha. That was last fall in Asheville, right before the hurricane came through and the floods and washed a lot of Asheville and the surrounding area off the map for a little while.
Yep, crazy timing.
Tell the listeners about you. Where are you from? How'd you get into business? And how are things going?
Yeah, I've been in the industry about 20 years now. Started off as just a helper. HVAC wasn't really in my blood. It's not a legacy thing. Wasn't born into it. I joined it because when I left I was dropped out of college. And when I decided that, I looked into trade schools. And at the time, I just Googled what are trades that are going to be around for a long time. It was elevator mechanics and refrigeration were the top two that came up in our area. So I'm like, oh, you know what? I applied to both schools. Let's see which one takes me first. And HVAC took me in first. So that's what I went with going into and haven't turned back since.
We could have lost you on your way up.
Absolutely. So that's been in the industry 20 years. And I got pretty good at what we are doing. or so I thought, at least, until coming to meet the guys at the NCI and really see unlocking the next level of HVAC that I wasn't even aware of. And even with all the research and stuff, because of the algorithms, they will only prompt you to look at or show you videos of relatable stuff like troubleshooting, installation. But if I never looked up airflow or airflow grids or whatever else there is, it doesn't prompt me to look these things up or won't suggest these videos. So it's only recently that since the summit, we've been doing it. So 4 years now, I decided to start my own business here in Canada, in Quebec. And we had some interesting struggles compared to what I hear from the guys down in the South. So we deal with different issues, but as for us, we are doing pretty well going into year 4. And I think with the help with NCI and Better HVAC, we're going to just keep going and do better.
So you were telling us before we got started, you haven't put a lot into advertising your business because you get a lot of word of mouth. How does that work?
That's something that was just incredible. I think one of the biggest things while I was working for the 3 other contractors prior to having my own company, I've always represented myself and treated their company as my own and created my own brand. When clients, they were asking for me, it was never like, which company you work for? It's, oh, I know Anthony Wu. I know Anthony. And that's when I realized, hey, people are asking for me and don't care who I work for. And that's when I decided to create my own company. And sure enough, that did carry over. And strictly through word of mouth, local community Facebook pages. I'm on the western side of the Montreal Island, just off island is what I cover. And that's where I've built my pretty much almost like a cult following just within that side. I don't have label trucks. I don't have a website. And we have not slowed down, and we are giving away like 20 to 30% of our leads that we're getting because I don't have enough manpower. And year 1, we're 3 guys. Year 2, we were 4. Year 3, we went to 8 employees. Now we're 3 trucks on the road. And this year, I'm looking at trying to get another 2 on the road to try to at least keep up until I could hit that 100% retention. Right now, I'm only doing about 80% of our leads, 75 to 80% of the leads. From there, I want to try to maybe sustain and see how we can really solidify our foundations, because more often than not, talking to guys growing business too fast is also just as dangerous as not building the business right. So we're working on foundations, making sure we're putting in the EOS, getting stuff into place, and just making sure we can streamline our growth to copy paste.
Very good. You came in the industry at an interesting time to start a business. Some people might call it a challenging time, but you seem to be like a really good learner. You absorb and you probably filter what you learn. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of the business side as well as the technology side? Everything you learn and read about, you don't do, but you somehow filter that. How does that happen?
That's a very interesting question. Especially, I've noticed that when I go down to the States to do training with NCI, that's one of the aspects I did notice. And I think it's a matter, I'm just very quick to adapt and I love learning. For example, when I go to NCI, I don't know if you guys are aware that most of my market is I only do electric heat kits with heat pumps. This whole electrification thing, it's like I've been doing this for the last decade. I don't touch gas. So interesting aspect with a lot of the NCI training is they focus on gas safety and CO issues and stuff. It never occurred to me because I'm like, I never touch gas. But just that safety aspect of, I'm like, hey, even if I don't touch gas, now I can also offer a service where I can help clients check people with gas appliances, check homes pressures, safety, and sell on that, even though I don't touch gas furnaces, because here in Quebec, we also need another license to do gas furnaces. We need our heating and plumbing license. So I have electricity is a separate license, plumbing is a different license, refrigeration is a different license. So for us to do all this stuff is pretty wild. And for me, it's just learning and then seeing what I can take out of what we see. Things I can implement immediately are the things I go after first. And then as we develop, it's like, all right, what can I add? So I think in terms of filtering, that's how I do it, is what is immediately usable and how can I deploy this in the shortest time possible? Just like when I found out what the airflow grids, it's like, hey, that's something very easy, something I could do at every job. I'm the one on service calls and selling the jobs. So I'm the one that will deploy the airflow grid first. I had it for those 6 months since, not even. I had it for like maybe 4 months because there was a back order on it when I ordered it. And came back, I had it in my truck, started deploying it, started seeing immediate results. And now I'm trying to get the rest of my trucks equipped before we hit our busy season.
I like the way you describe that. You look at things you can implement immediately, deploy quickly. You seem like a low-key guy, but you really do have a lot of confidence in the way you speak and the way you make decisions. Where does that come from?
That is a very good question. I have no idea.
The food, the water, I don't know, maybe how you were raised or something? What?
Honestly, I don't know. I've just been a go-getter. I think up until like 2022 is when I recognized what happened was I actually went to a Tony Robbins event, and that is what really opened my mind and showed me the difference in mindset. Even before I started running my business, I had so much doubt. It was always the what ifs. What if I can't afford this? What if I can't make enough money? What if, what if, what if? After doing the Tony Robbins event, it really shifted my mindset to it's not about the what ifs, but the how. How am I going to afford it? How am I going to save up enough money? How much do I have to work to make that money? And I think that's what really built my confidence. It's prior to that, I always just thought it was dumb luck. I reached my goals. I got what I wanted just because I worked hard. But I also understand that it was actually maybe it's more a mindset thing because I've had my goals, I had targets, and if you have targets and you have a plan, you naturally will achieve your goals. That's something that I'm trying to preach to my team and show them. And that's why I find it important to help my guys do some goal setting. I like to know, hey, what are your career goals? What do you want to accomplish this year? What do you want to specialize in? And now that my team is growing, I'm realizing that I don't have to be the one to know it all. It's like, hey, my new apprentice, she wants to be an IQ specialist. I'm like, perfect. I got in contact with John Ellis. I'm going to bring him for training, pay attention. And then if there's any further training that we need to do, she will be the one that I'll be deploying to do it. I have my installation guys do the NCI duct optimization course so that those guys will specialize in that. I have my tech going down to do the airflow balancing course with me in Arizona in 2 weeks. So now that I'm deploying my team, I'm trying to diversify my specialties and really create specialists in the industry now and not just focus on box changing.
Sure. You're the conductor of a wonderful orchestra there, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, to answer your question, I just don't know. I think really was just in 2022 was just attending one of those personal development events. It was something I didn't even want to do. I wasn't a believer in it. I'm like, what is this going to say type thing? And it was my wife that she wanted to go, but she's very big on personal development. And she had the extra ticket. No joke, up until the day of, I was planning to just drop her off at the convention center and hit the beach and call it a day. But I got there, I'm like, let me sit through the first day and see what's up. And I sat through the full 3 days. And I think that was really a defining moment of where, all right, now I know what I want. I know how to get it. I don't know if that can answer your questions.
No, it does. I recently gave a presentation at the ResNet conference about things principals learned during running a business here. And one of the quotes that I used was from Thomas Jefferson: how much pain they have cost us, the evils which never happened. That's the mindset thing, is you can really get wrapped up in what ifs and just what if yourself out of business.
Absolutely. And I think that honestly, it's like looking back, I'm like, oh man, I should have started this business even 4 years ago before, but it is what it is. There's no regret. And I decided was really, I rather have tried and failed because I know I have the skill set to get a job anywhere. And that is what gave me the confidence to say, at least I tried and failed rather than live with regret of what if I did not do it? What if I could have had this? And really, when I changed my mindset, that was that. And there's no stopping now.
So you talked about the TrueFlow Grid being transformational. You got one, tried it out. How did you end up using it, and why did you deploy it with more than just yourself?
For me, primarily, it was more for diagnostics. Being able, once you meet the guys at NCI, you really understand what airflow and how important airflow is before charge. And it was something that I was not as aware of prior to NCI. And I've been doing temperature splits, charging with subcooling, but never really focused on airflow. I have clients that I've had for years now. I've been looking at their system. It's like, oh, it all looks good. Until I put in the TrueFlow Grid and, oh, wait, we're actually not getting as much airflow as we should, or the static pressure is just a tad higher than it should be because of the restriction, the way their drops they make it nice and fancy, and it goes from like a 20 by 20 down to like a 16 by 8 or whatever, and then into the side. And it looked pretty, it looked clean, but it's only when I started with the NCI and learning how to test airflow, I'm like, oh, this is an easy thing to do. You know what? Let me just start slapping this grid into every job I'm at. And that's when I started seeing so many issues. And by seeing issues, like, all right, Eric, client, this is what I see. This is the report. Now, did you ever notice these issues? Like, oh yeah, I had issues with comfort issues. Because prior to NCI, I didn't even know what comfort consultant was. And now that's the direction we're leaning into. It's going to selling comfort. And that is what the TrueGrid has really allowed me to do. By seeing the issues or seeing the airflow issues that nobody else sees, like static pressure, for example, 100% of my clients, I'm the first one to plug in the static pressure ports. So that tells me that nobody in my industry my market, not industry, my market is doing it. So that's why I'm like, if no one's doing it, I have to be the first to do it. And that is why I started deploying it, doing the TrueFlow and with the static pressure testing at every job. Not only did it identify issues quickly, it also did not leave us a shadow of doubt. For example, that we had a weird motor issue where one of the speed was failing, even on high speed, but you put your hand there, it's like, yeah, fan is blowing, I hear it, the amps are drawing. But when my tech called me, he's like, there's just something up with this. I could see temp rising on the furnace, but the fan is running at high speed. But is it really running at high speed? So I went there, I brought my grid, I went to join him and like, all right, let's see what's happening. And sure enough, it was low flow. I think one of the high speed probably gave out on the ECM because of high static pressures. So it was one of the ones I was actually showing the guys at NCI that I took down. It was like 1.03 inch of water on the total external static pressure. So we just actually, when I came back from Orlando, we just completed that job and blew out his return and everything is nice and dandy. So not only did we change the motor, we gave the client an answer why his ECM failed after 2 years. It was a brand new install, not by us. He's like, these are the data, these are the numbers. So having data is what was very important to us, being able to show the client and understanding what was up. And all right, this is the issue. I know what we can do. This is how we're going to correct it. I'm going to test out. And now these are your numbers. And there's no doubt once you have the right numbers. And I think that is what will help give my guys confidence. And there's no more doubt.
You talked about data-driven decisions, triple D. That is also an element of EOS. So if you're doing that on the technical side and with your customers, and then you're coming back around and talking about that in EOS, you're really going to get this resounding reinforcement and some synergy with that. Have you observed that to be true?
Absolutely. And even EOS was something that I did not believe in at first. I was like, oh, I'm too small of a company. It's like when I read Rocket Fuel and Traction, my sister recommended, I was like, oh, these are for like really the big guys. But then when I came to the NCI Summit, once again, I was talking to Will Horner from Canco, or now Climate Comfort, I think they bought over. But yeah, they were telling how they had to start with the EOS and NCI was using EOS. I'm like, if all these guys are using it, I definitely have to do it. I dug back into it. It's like, all right. And then that's where I started the filtration system again. What part of this can I use directly and what can I start with? And now I've become the visionary. I've led my lead tech become my implementer. I have my assistant also on the back end helping me implement the back end stuff. And she's responsible for creating our SOPs as well as we develop. We have our monthly meetings on implementation to follow up and stuff like that. So yeah, just getting all the data together and sharing it with our team and then deciding, all right, this is what we have. What can we do? And this is why we decided, I showed my team what I was doing with the TrueGrid, the TrueFlow. And now I'm like, yep, that's something we definitely have to do. And we're going to get them all in and we're going to get everyone trained and show them how to use it.
When it comes to investment to make this all happen, you have to have a budget and you are spending money on tools, on training, on the time away from work. How do you make those decisions and balance that all out as a business owner?
Honestly, it was not even a decision. It was just go for it. I've always been a true believer in having good tools to get deliver good results. Training and learning has always been in my blood. It's something that I've always done since I've gotten into the industry. Guys like Brian Orr, Chris Steffens, Ace, Craig, all these guys were the guys I was learning from before I even started formal training. I call it university on wheels. Any chance I got was between jobs, I put on a podcast, put on a video. There was times where back in my early days, I was never trained properly from my former employers. So it was one of those things they threw you in the fire, learn as you go type thing. So when I show up at this refrigeration site, it's like, I work on ACs. I don't know how to deal with this refrigerator. Go on YouTube. All right, what am I looking for? So just by learning like that, I believe that the knowledge is so available. There's no reason to not do it. Then meeting the guys at NCI just took it to next levels. Oh, I didn't even know this was available. So to me, it wasn't even a question. It was just like, what do we need? Let's do it. I think it helps because I don't have any marketing dollar budgets. Like I'm not investing any money in the website's the first thing I'm putting really into it. But the rest of it was like, let's keep investing into tools. I pay myself a pretty moderate salary just to pay my bills. And that's it. My partner and I both agreed that we're just going to, our first 5 years is going to be reinvesting in this business and see where we can take this business. So we each agreed we'll pay ourselves a salary, and then everything else we've just been dumping back into the business. So whether it was for training, for tools, there was no real budget for it. My partner is very open to ideas. I propose it, show him what we can do. He agrees to it. Let's get it done. That's how it's been. So training and tools is a very big thing on our list, and it's not even a debate, really.
I'm curious, you mentioned something earlier, and I want to talk about heat pumps here a little bit. And I know this is veering off in another direction, but you mentioned that you do all heat pumps up there. And one of the things I hear a lot of people comment on is, oh, heat pumps, that's too far north. They don't work in cold climates. Realistically, what air temperatures and things are you talking about up there in the winter times, and how long does it stay that temperature?
That is interesting. Hang on, let me do some math for you here because I'm going to convert it into Fahrenheits.
I can convert real fast. What do you got?
Yeah, so we're looking at most of our winters are between minus 20 C to minus 30. We got the odd weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks that we're dipping into the minus 40 Cs. So that's the air temperature we're working with. Like I'm running one of the high performance heat pumps, and my system pretty much never stops, my heat pump, and it's able to sustain the heat in my house pretty comfortably. I have a 10 kilowatt heat kit as a supplement, and that's pretty much all I'm running.
So just for everybody in the US that uses Fahrenheit, all right, minus 20 C is negative 4 Fahrenheit. Minus 30 C is negative 22 Fahrenheit. Heat pumps work in cold weather. And if we want to go to negative 40 is where the two scales collide and equal out. So you're talking negative 40 Fahrenheit at there. But clearly...
Yeah, and we've been on this the last decade or so. We've been using heat pumps for like ever. I haven't sold a straight AC in at least 15 years.
I think that's mind-blowing to a lot of people. And I hear this a lot. And I love whatever makes the customer comfortable. But we got to realize that heat pumps do work in cold weather. And I had to throw that out there because I was pretty sure you were in some pretty cold weather. So I wanted to ask about that. Do you get comfort complaints?
We have not. I haven't done real testing about how often the auxiliary heat strips are kicking in. But as in terms of comfort, we don't have any comfort complaints because heat pumps, for one, it doesn't overheat. It doesn't heat too fast. So it gives time for the home to actually acclimate to a nice temperature. Whereas I find people that are oversized or run their gas furnaces quickly, the air gets warm, but the rest of the house kind of stays cold. And then you got that weird imbalance until like everything in your house gets into that equilibrium of comfort. With a heat pump, if you run it long and steady, it's amazing. It doesn't cost a lot to run heat pumps up here. At least in Quebec, we have hydroelectricity. So our electrical rates are pretty low compared to some of the places in the States, I believe. So yeah, that's in terms of comfort issues, we have not had comfort. Like the complaints we have is, I got that one room that's cold or the basement's a bit colder, but it's not a heat pump issue. It's going to be an airflow issue.
Or shell, maybe.
Our shells are not too bad here. From what I've gathered, I haven't seen too much issues with that, or at least not as bad as what I've seen in the States with when I talk to some of your other contractors in the States. Up here, because of our weather, our shells are a lot tighter just because of the cold that we have. That's something that they're not like 100%, like they're not the absolute best, but they're a lot better than what you guys would probably see in the States, I believe.
I would suspect so. I think your building codes are a little bit more stringent than what we have down here. Now, when you're talking about running these heat pumps in cold temperatures, are you turning them off ever, or are you just letting them run and adding the electric heat on top of it?
So up here, we do recommend to our clients to let them roll out. All the new heat pumps are self-protected. They all have their own sensors. They will stop if they need to. And when they do stop, the heat strips will kick in. Typically, what it used to be was we used to size our heat kits to give the full heat load in the event that the heat pumps fail. But now we're only sizing the heat kits to supplement. Because at minus 30, a lot of these heat pumps are rated to 80% capacity, for example. So all I'm missing is that 20% from minus 30 to minus 40 or whatever it is. So all I needed was that 10 kilowatt. I was reluctant at first just because of the evolution of heat pumps. It was like, man, what if 10 kilowatts is really not enough and my heat pump fails? But with 10 kilowatts, it's able to keep my house decent, not the warmest, but it's going to keep my house from any issues until I could get my heat pump up and running type thing. So I was like, oh, okay. So that gave me a bit more confident in doing it. Also being HVAC guy myself is like, if 10 kilowatt doesn't work, I'll just go slap in a 15. I have the power for 15.
Yeah, because you can just put something else in the air handler there.
Exactly. So for me, I've been testing for 3 years now. When I first started my company, I was like, yeah, now that I have my own business, may as well throw one of these guys in there. And yeah, my system just never stops. It runs all winter, and no matter the temperature, it has its own defrost. It's got its own sensors.
Just turn it on and let it do its thing.
Yep. And I don't mess around with the temperatures. I don't drop my temperature when I leave the house for work or whatever. I drop it like maybe a degree or two, but that's about it. I don't drop it down to like something ridiculous. Like some people keep it at like 16 when they're not home, 16 Celsius. But me, I leave it around the 20 degree mark and just let it roll.
Yeah, and then that way you're not getting into that electric heat to do recovery or anything like that. If most thermostats, you can set it up to where like if it's a degree or 2 degrees, it's not going to bump that electric heat.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. I love to hear that. I love to hear that they're working well for you up there. And obviously it's possible to run them in cold weather. Now, whether it makes sense financially, that's a completely different discussion to have, but we've got to figure that out. And that's something that installers and customers, end users have got to figure out whether it makes sense financially.
Exactly. That depends on the market. Just because I'm in Quebec, we have hydroelectricity, which that's why it makes sense. And that's why we've been doing this for so long. And we even have programs that are encouraging to put in these heat pumps, and our clients get back a grant from the federal and the provincial governments to get these done. When I started my business is when this was at the peak of these grants. And I think that's what really allowed me to really take off. And everybody was doing, right after the pandemic, actually, right after everyone couldn't spend their money. They couldn't go anywhere. They had renovation money. So that's when I started my business, was right after the pandemic in 20 was when I first kicked off my company. And that's where we did not struggle at all. It was like, this is our price. This is it. And clients were, yep. There was not even, do you have financing? Oh, let me talk to my wife. Is like, all right, let's get it done. Everybody was working from home. Everybody needed the AC. They realized how hot their houses were getting. So yeah, that's part of it. The market is really important to see if it makes sense for us. It definitely makes sense. So
that's awesome to hear. Something you mentioned earlier too was comfort consulting. Like you've switched over to trying more of that comfort consulting. And I'm curious what your customers have thought of that. Have they given you feedback, or have you gotten feedback from them on that methodology of talking to them?
Not yet, because I'm so very new to it. I'm just slowly deploying it and including it in what I'm doing. And I haven't officially turned over. It's in my head within my company. That's the direction we're leaning towards, but it's not official that we're comfort consultants. So right now I'm in the learning phase of the business of my deployment, where I'm learning, all right, what are issues that we see? What are solutions? Can I correct them? Now that I'm seeing more results of correcting these issues, I'm building up the confidence to be able to say, all right, now I can solve these issues. Because up until now, what I've been doing is, all right, any weird issues I see people ask about, I was like, let me come check that out for you. I'll do a consultation, just no extra fee. It's just whatever my labor cost is, really, just so I could go collect the data first. And then what I've done is whenever I go to the NCI training or go down to Orlando and meet guys like you guys, I would bring my data with me. And I spoke to the guy at NCI and was like, hey, just last week I went to go see this guy. He was complaining about this. These are my numbers. This is what it looks like. What do you guys think? This is what I'm going to propose. And I spoke to like Adam Muffich, and he's like, oh, that's how I would approach the situation too, looking at your data. And it helps me reinforce that confidence to do it. So that's how I've been strategically, just like airflow testing. Like I got clients that I got these cold rooms or these imbalances. So I would go and collect the data. I'm going to go take my training with NCI, go ask them all the questions, and then come back and roll out these jobs and then see what I learned from that.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like you're headed that way in an organic matter. It's not going to be really a customer. The customers probably won't see a big change from you, I would imagine.
Exactly. Because I'm not advertising like that. I'm just right now hunting to see if I can get how much issues I can find and resolve. And then the more I do it, it's like, oh, now I can start using my social media. That's how I've been using my social media, is to create awareness of issues with my clients. So I don't know if you've seen some of my Facebook posts on my social media. It's all about education to my clients. It's not just showing, hey, this is my install, call us for service, do this, do that. It's all about, this is the information. If you have any other questions, let me know what you guys need help with, type thing. And this past winter is when I really saw the results, because in the fall, end of summer, we started deploying our content more towards indoor air quality, because I knew I was going to be going to the summit. And the reason why I went to the summit was to meet John Ellis. And because I wanted to get in indoor air quality stuff. So we started making information about humidifiers, dehumidifiers, air exchangers, what they do, how they're used, and start deploying those content out there. And sure enough, this is all we did this winter, was really installing humidifier, dehumidifier, air exchangers. Just because people are now aware, it's like, oh, I do have that dryness issue. Oh, I have that dampness issue. So people are becoming more aware of realizing what the issues are. So once I get more comfortable with the balancing and stuff, then I'm going to start creating content on that. It's like, hey, you ever have that cold basement? Or do you notice that room in the far end is always a bit of a different? Call us. We can resolve that for you.
When you're talking about creating content, what kind of content? Is it like something that you train your team to talk about, or photographs, videos?
Nope, it's just me on my Facebook page putting out information for my clients, just a little short 90-second reels, just a little quick explanation of what to expect, how these things work. We go over some frequently asked questions that we get a lot of. So stuff like that. Just a little quick. I also realized that the average homeowner doesn't want to spend 20 minutes or half an hour learning about how things work. So we've decided to just put out 90-second reels of, all right, this is how this works. Just a quick, what do you need to know, how to control it? And if not, give us a call. Or if you have any questions, we could do another video on a part 2 if someone wasn't clear about how to set their adjustments or whatever the case would be.
That's really interesting. And I'll say that I've seen that in more than one place where people are really getting into this short form content, and it's helping people really. I think it's kind of a gateway. It's like, oh, there is something more to this. It's deeper, to go dive in. I'm interested to know what kind of questions you're asking the customers when you walk into homes to uncover issues, or maybe start aiming your data acquisition into a certain area, or are you just throwing everything at it to see what data comes out?
So because I'm still very new towards the whole comfort thing, I don't have a fixed set of questions yet. It's more right now we're just deploying it as part of my inspection. So it's just become a standard. I not really, unless it was a specific client that had a specific issue that I put myself out there to try to resolve that issue. But besides that, I'm not actively targeting issues. It's become part of our regular health check. When people want us to go in the springtime just to verify performance, system performance, just to give it once over type thing, we deploy our static pressures, we deploy our airflow. And then from there, we tell them what we see, what their performance is. And that's where we're at right now. I haven't leaned too hard into really establishing a specific comfort situation type yet.
Gotcha. So you're still pretty new into that segment where you're growing everything else out. But that's a great place to be. Sounds like you've created a good network of people to help you learn and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, NCI, that's all I have to say. It was just, I literally went to NCI to find John Ellis because I was getting into the IAQ and I got a lot more than John Ellis when I got to the NCI.
Yeah, NCI is a great organization. They've done a lot of great training over the years, and Summit is a really fun time, really great learning time. If anybody's interested in going to that, we can throw a link in the show notes to the NCI Summit. And it's not just for NCI members. Like anybody can register and go to that, to go there as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, definitely as a newer contractor, I definitely recommend joining the NCI group. It's not even about the training, it's about the network that you're going to be able to build at the NCI, which was something I did not expect. And it got a lot more than what I expected through that summit.
Speaking of networking, you came to the High Performance Hangout.
Yep.
Tell us about your impressions, your reactions to that, and tell us what it is in your words, what it was in your words.
Honestly, it was a bit, especially the hangout was like at the end of a triple header. We did the Orlando Symposium, then I went to Tactical Award Night, and then we did the AHR, and then it was the hangout. It was a lot to digest. The hangout, if I didn't attend the NCI Summit, I would have been a lot more surprised and I've been pretty starstruck. But the fact that I've attended the summit, I attended the AHR, I attended the symposium actually, because everybody from the symposium was pretty much at the hangout. So I already had a chance to already connect with a lot of you guys and got to talk to a lot of people already. And I was already comfortable. If I was to be invited to that hangout for the first time, I would have probably been with my jaws on the floor and just looking around the room. It's like, I've seen that guy. I've seen that guy. Oh, I know that guy. And just trying to figure out who to talk to type thing. But that's pretty much, it was just phenomenal. The people that were at the hangout is really the greatest of the industry. And being able to be in the same room and pick everyone's head, it's quite a privilege for us, honestly.
So you say us. You came with other people. Who'd you bring?
Yeah, I brought my business partner because he was not at the NCI Summit. And when I came back, I was like, you have to be at the next summit and you have to meet these people. And being able to show him what I experienced helps him understand more of the direction that I want to bring the company. It's hard to bring back all kinds of ideas when your partner doesn't understand what you're talking about and who you're really meeting. So when I got to the summit or got to the symposium, actually, it's like, oh, look, I met Eric Kaiser, I met Bill Spohn, introduced them to who all these guys are and how we can reach out if anything. And that was pretty much it. I brought my business partner and I also brought a partner company, owner of AeroSeal Global Barrier, because like I said, I can't do it all. And I partner up with a duct cleaning company and I partner up with AeroSeal company so that collaboratively we can work together to do better in the industry.
You talked a lot about communication here, and that you just mentioned coming back with ideas, but your business partner has no frame of reference to land those ideas into. You are a very thoughtful business person, and congratulations on what you developed. We've had a lot of fun talking with you here. Any closing thoughts you want to leave with our listeners?
Yes, don't be afraid to go get what you want. Set your goals, make a plan, and you'll get there. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Very good. Very simple, straightforward advice, and sounds like you're living that every day. Anthony, really want to thank you for coming on the podcast, and it wasn't as scary as you thought it might be, huh?
No, thank you guys for having me. It's a privilege to be able to be talking to guys like you guys. I've been following you guys for a long time and knew who you guys were, and it was really at the summit, the first time I got to really say hi and introduce myself to you guys. And now with a symposium, it's like, hey, Anthony, how are you? It's like, oh, hey, he remembers me. So honestly, it's a privilege for me to be able to get on a podcast with you guys and to get to know you guys on a different level.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks again for tuning in, listening to this episode of Building HVAC Science. If you have any questions or want to suggest a topic or just reach out, you can reach us at marketing@TrueTechTools.com, TrueTechTools.com. The Building HVAC Science Podcast is a production of TrueTech Tools Limited. Full disclosure, I'm the owner of TrueTech. and the opinions expressed are those of my guests, my co-host, or myself, depending on who is speaking, of course. If you're in the market for tools or test instruments mentioned in the podcast, look at what TrueTechTools.com has to offer. Again, that's TrueTechTools.com. You can use the offer code HVACBS for a nice discount. I actually put together a quote for today's meeting, which was something I mentioned in the conversation, which is a quote by Thomas Jefferson. How much pain they have cost us, the evils which never happened. As Anthony said, a lot of this is mindset. We hope you take away a good mindset from listening to this podcast. Take care. Until next time.